chapter 21, verse 21. Vayeshev b'midbar Paran, and Yishmael stayed in the Paran wilderness. Vatikachlo imo isha meretz Mitzrayim, and his mother took for him a wife from the land of Egypt. Rashi says mimkom giduah, from the place where she grew up. As it states, Rosh that she was an Egyptian maid. This is what people say. Do you like this expression? Zerok chutro avira aikarakai. Throw a stick into the air. You might recognize the word chutra. That's from Chagad Yason. Throw a stick in the air. And then aikarakai. It will land on its root. So basically, an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You go back to your roots. So,
but is Rashi criticizing her for this, or just saying that it's natural?
He's just saying it's natural. That things tend to go back to their original nature. That's just the way of the world. You might try to switch things around, but in the end, we are who we are. You can't escape your origin story. Yes, Jerry, please speak loudly.
Yeah, unfortunately, today Jews are intermarrying with non-Jews, and so this Rashi doesn't apply today.
Well, I think it does because with all respect, I don't mean to contradict you, Jerry, but what I'm saying is that I've seen a lot of people, even though they strayed very far from the Jewish faith, and even though they intermarried, and even though they haven't gone to synagogue for years, as they get older, they want to go back to their roots. I've seen them with my own eyes many times.
But the damage has been done. They have children.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's always going to be results of whatever one does, but I'm saying in the end, a lot of people do like to go back to their roots. But I hear your point. Okay, Vayihi, but now we have a very powerful story. Vayihi Ba'itahi, chapter 21, verse 22, was at that time, Vayomer Avimelech, Ufichol Tzar Tzavelo Abraham Lemor. So Avimelech and his officer, his head of his army, his name was Pichol, he said to Abraham, saying, Elokim imcha b'chol asher ato said. They said to Abraham, we see God is with you in everything you do. Look at Rashi. Elokim imcha b'fi shera'u sheyatza mishkunat Sodom. They saw that he left Sodom with shalom, and he was safe. They saw Abraham keeps passing all his tests. He left Sodom, and he was safe. He battled with the four kings, and he was safe. And they found his hands. And his wife was remembered by God, who is Kunab in his old age. And so now we see God's on your side. Now swear to me in God's name. Swear to me that you're not going to lie to me and my grandchild and my child and my grandchild. Like the kindness that I've done with you, you should do with me. And with the land in which you have sojourned. So he says, let's make a treaty. Rashi says, this is the point where a person feels paternal love toward his child and grandchild. But beyond that, they're on their own. It's interesting. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that people feel a lot of paternal love towards their great-grandchildren. I guess Rashi's saying by that point it's too attenuated. Avimelech, who was the king of the Philistines, and his general Pichol.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
And so now he says, like the kindness that I've done with you, you should do with me. What does that mean, Rashi? She says, Shamarti Ochayine Artu Fanecha. I said to you, this is your land. Now, Vayomer Abraham Anochi Shaveh. So Abraham says, I'll take an oath. But look what happens right after they take the oath. All of a sudden, Abraham sees that even though they just took an oath, he has to dispute with Avimelech the wells that Avimelech's servant stole from Abraham. Rashi says, "Nitva kachimo." He argued with him al kach over this well. I still remember sitting there in shul growing up, on Rosh Hashana, and the rabbi got up and he gave a big speech about the Arabs, and he pointed to this. And one of the reasons he says, "Look, you can't trust the Arabs." That's what he said. And I was thinking it was a very political speech, but I'll never forget that speech. He said Abraham was punished for that. And I said, well, who says that these are the Arabs? This is the Philistines. Anyway, look at Avimelech's response. A few years ago, I gave a Dvar Torah to Oav Shalom, and I called this the Avimelech syndrome. Look at what Avimelech says. Vayomer Avimelech. What?
Sergeant Schultz syndrome.
That is what he said. Vayomer Avimelech. Lo yadati. I didn't know. Mi asata devar hazeh. Who could have done this? Gama, tell what we got to tell you. It's your fault. You never told me. Yamanochi lo shamati bilti ayom. I never heard about this before today. I don't know. Who could have done this? You never told me. I never heard about it. The Avimelech syndrome. Not my fault. I didn't know anything about it. That's the Avimelech syndrome. Vayikach Avraham sonu vakar, and Abraham took the sheep and the cattle. Vayitein Avimelech vayikatush lehem bris. So the first part they took an oath, but now an oath is not sufficient. Now they have to make an actual covenant. They cut a covenant, more than an oath. And Vayatzev Avraham and Sheva kivsot hatzon levatan. And Abraham set seven of the female sheep by themselves. So Avimelech said, what are these seven sheep that you set off? So he says, Vayomer, and so Abraham says, they take these seven ewes, not ewes, that they should be for me a covenant, a testimony, that I dug this well. She says that this will serve me the way he does, a witness. Okay. That I dug this well. She says, Avimelech shepherds were arguing over it, and they were saying, we dug it. Amar B'neihem, they said amongst themselves, Yisrael be'er Yahu Amayim L'kraso Shalohi Va'u L'kras Abraham. They said, whoever will appear at the well, and the well water will come up to greet him, and that will be a sign that it's his. And the waters rose to greet Abraham. So the gift of the sheep is not proving that Avram's shepherds dug the well. The gift of the sheep is evidence that the water rose towards Abraham. Okay, so this is something that a lot of people don't realize. Why is it called Be'er Sheva? Why is it called Be'er Sheva? I think it's because of the seven wells. No. Be'er Sheva. It's called Be'er Sheva because this is the oath around the wells, not the seven wells, but this is the oath that they made around the wells, because there they both took an oath.
Look, I mean both.
Yeah, but the verse says explicitly that the reason is because there they took an oath. Yeah, but you're right. It could mean both, Seth. Yes, Judah.
No, that's what I was gonna say. I just couldn't hit on my what do you call it there?
You were gonna say just like
microphone.
Seth said? Then
The
that's both.
microphone.
Sorry.
All right, thank you, Judah. So Vayachretu bris be'er Sheva, they made a covenant there. Vayakam Avimelech u'fichol sar tzavo. Vayashuvo eretz prishtim. And so Avimelech, they made a comment in Beersheba, and Avimelech and Fichol, his general, got up and they returned to Beersheba. And now we're going to come to my favorite Rashi in the whole Torah. Vayita Eshel Beersheba. They planted an Eshel. What's an Eshel? Rashi is going to tell us. Vayikra Sham b'Shem Hashem Kel Olam. And he called there in the name of God, Kel Olam. He called there, he proclaimed. So right after this Avimelech story, Abraham plants an Eshel in Beersheba, and he calls there in the name of God, El Olam. What's going on here? Rashi says, what's an Eshel? Rav and Shmuel argue about what an Eshel means. Chadamar, one says it's a pardes, it's an orchard. He wants to bring fruits to the guests in the meal. So he has to have an orchard to give to people. Abraham became an innkeeper. And in his inn, he had lots of fruits. Because Vayita means he plants by a tent. It means he pitched a tent. As it states, Vayita alo afadno, and he plants is Vayita ale afadno. He planted the tents of his palace. Vayikra Sham, and he called there in the name of God. How so? What does it have to do with an Eshel? And this is the point. It's the oldest trick in the book. Tell it to every Chabad shliach. Tell it to every Hillel rabbi. Shout it out from the synagogues. Because of that Eshel, the name of God was called the Holy One. Abraham would be giving them food and drink. And afterwards, Abraham would say to them, bless the who made you the food. You thought you ate my food? You ate from the food of the one who spoke. So God said, so Abraham would serve them delicious food, and they say, well, we want to thank the chef. He said, yeah, thank the one who made it. And who's that? That is God. So he used the food as a way of bringing them closer to the faith. It's the oldest story in the world, the Kiddush, the herring, the schnapps, the cholent, the kegel. That brings the Yidden closer. Whose trick was that? Abraham's. What do you think of that, Steve? Works.
Okay with it.
Okay with you? All right. And now, Vayagar Avraham be'eretz Plishtim Yamim Rabim. This is also interesting. Abraham lived in the land of the Philistines for many days. Why was he living there? He's supposed to go to Canaan. Why is he living in the land of the Philistines? Let's see what Rashi says. Merubim al shel Hebron. Many days more than those of Hebron. The Hebron also Esrim v'chamesh shana. In the Hebron, he spent 25 years. Mekan Esrim v'sheish. And here in Beersheba, he lived for 26 years. Now we're going to see the chronology.
How long?
We're going to see the whole chronology. We're going to watch it. 25 years in Hebron and 26 years in Beersheba. Sherry ben Shivim v'chamesh shana. Abraham was 75 years old, but Seito mecharan. When he left Haran, Oto Shana Vayofo Vayesha Be'onei Mamre. That was the year he dwelt in the plains of Mamre. Shalom Atzinu Kodem Lakan Shanit Yashev Al Sham. He stayed in Elam Mamre. Shevakom Kamosav Aya Karech. All of his other places, he was like a guest. There it uses the words Vayeshev, and he settled. Chonen Osea Olech. He was camping, traveling, moving. As it states, Vayavor Avram, Vayatek Nisham Vayira, Vayered. He was always moving around. In Egypt, he was there for 3 months. Paro sent him off immediately. He went on his journey until he came and settled in Eonei Mamre. That was in Hebron. Sham Yashav Ad Shenab Chasidom. He stayed in Hebron until Sodom was overturned. Miyad Vayisa Misham Avraham. Immediately Avram left there. They Busha Shalot because of the shame of Lot, because Lot had children from his daughters, so he immediately left. Ubal Eretz pushed him. So that's why Abraham went to the Philistines. He was embarrassed. He had a family scandal. He didn't want to stay. And Abraham was 99 years old when he came to the Philistines. Because on the third day after he circumcised, the angels came to him. And we know that the Sodom destruction happened right after his circumcision, because the angels came to him on the third day of his circumcision, and he was 99. So he was in Hebron from 75 years old till 99. That's 25 years. Meaning to say, when Rashi said Avram was 75 years old, he meant he was in his 75th year. He was 74 years old. So by 99, he was 25 years past. So he lived in Hebron for 25 years. And here it says many days, which means merubim al rishonim, which means more than the earlier days. Tux is trying to tell us something. If he was there for more than 1 or 2 years, 1 year, he would have said, would have explained it. So therefore, he was there for 1 extra year. So Abraham stayed in the Philistines until he was 125 years old. He stayed there for 26 years. That was the year that he returned around and he went to Hebron. And now, and that year that he went back was 12 years prior to the binding of Isaac. So that means Isaac was going to be bound when he was 37 years old. 12 years later, 12 years after 25. So that's the way it was taught. So we see from here that Abraham stayed for the Philistines until he was 125. And he had the circumcision of Isaac when he was 137. Yes, Jerry.
Seder Olam, is this a volume that we still have or not?
Yeah, it's an ancient midrash. Yeah, we have it.
Oh, it's an ancient midrash. Ah, I see. Uh-huh. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find that on Safari. Okay, so that's the chronology. Okay, now we go to the Akedah.
One question, Rabbi.
Yes, yes.
The Talmud says that Aner Eshkol Mamre advised him to not do the bris.
No, it's the opposite. They advise him to do the bris. Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, so but
What were you going to say? What were you going to say?
just going to ask, like he did the bris there and then he left. Like
No, they advise him to do the bris. I thought that's what it says at the end of Vayera. Why did it happen in his plains? Because he advised him to do it. Look at the Rashi at the end of Lech Lecha. It's at right at the beginning. It says Be'elonei Mamrei. Why did they do it in the Elonei Mamrei? Rashi says, "Who should not turn lo eitzal amila." He gave him advice to do the circumcision. Mamrei advised that he publicizes fulfillment of Hashem's commandment.
but the other two were against it.
That's a good question about Aner and Eshkol. I don't know. I don't know if Rashi mentions that anywhere, but I know that Mamrei was supporting it. That's why he had the bris there.
Why do you think didn't complain to God?
About what?
about the son.
About which son?
About his son.
Yishmael or Isaac? Oh. So
I mean, there's plenty of times there's other complaining to God. How come not here?
that's a very good question. You hear what Steve is asking? Abraham fights for the wicked people of Sodom.
Right, 50, 40.
He fights for the wicked people of Sodom, and now here God saying, I want you to kill your son Isaac. Why doesn't he raise his voice and complain?
This goes and does, get ready to do it.
So what would you say is the answer?
I think it's a big problem.
The Talmud has an expression. I'll wait to see if anybody else has a thought before I share. Okay, nobody else's. The Talmud has an expression. Ein chavish matir atzmo mibena isurin. That a prisoner can't free himself from prison. You can free somebody else. You can advocate for somebody else, but you can't advocate for yourself. It's much harder. So even though Abraham was advocating for the rest of the world, for himself, he couldn't advocate. That's one answer. Second answer is he had a direct command from God. So it wasn't about Isaac not being righteous. It was to bring an offering to him.
But the story of Sodom was
Sodom was sinners. Hey,
this
David.
is a son with no sin.
What?
This son had no sin.
Right. That's why he didn't argue, because he's saying my son is going to be an
I
Oah.
would put it around the other way.
Yeah.
Hashem promised him earlier that all his descendants are going to be through Isaac. So
Right.
he knew that was.
So he figured he would be.
No, so that's another explanation that he knew the whole time he was going to survive because he believed. But
Well, that's an answer. Not a very Jewish answer, but it's an answer.
this passage of the Akedah here, we're using the red Chumash, David. This passage of the Akedah, you said not a very Jewish answer, is of course, this is not really the forum, but it's taken as inspiration for Christian theology, where they have belief in a person who is willing to sacrifice himself on the cross. I think how old was Jesus when the crucifixion happened? 37, which is how old was Isaac? Oh, Jesus was 33, but he was in his 30s. Isaac's 37. It's hard not to see the inspiration from this passage about willingness to sacrifice himself.
Yeah, I mean, that's 1,000 years later.
I'm just saying that we don't follow the Christian Bible. The point is that
even if you accept the whole martyr Messiah kind of concept, I don't see how that fits into this.
And just because he didn't say anything doesn't mean it wasn't a crisis for him either.
well, let's see what Rashi says.
All I'm saying is complaining about other to God. He didn't do this.
Right, that's what someone pointed out. Why doesn't Abraham raise his voice? In fact, just the opposite. Abraham wakes up eagerly and saddles his donkey as a willing participant. And not only that, he's about to do it. The God has to tell out to him, Avram, and then he says, Al tishlach yadcha el anar v'al ta'aslo mu'mat. He has to tell him twice.
Well, there's another piece.
Yeah.
That this is a command for human sacrifice. And human sacrifice predates Judaism and Israel, but in a certain part of the nation, the East. So another point where we should complain, this is reversion. Human sacrifice.
Well, they're doing human sacrifices in the Bible. Mesha Melech Moab, he does it. I mean, there are human sacrifices in the Bible, and they talk about it that you're not allowed to bring your child to Moab, which sounds like a human sacrifice. Okay, so let's read chapter 22, verse 1. It was after these matters, and God tested Abraham. Abraham, and he said to him, Avram, and Avram says, here I am. What does it mean after these matters? What does it mean after these matters? So Rashi gives two classic explanations. Yesh mi Rabbeinu omrim, some of our rabbis say, Achar dvarav shel Satan. When it says Achar dvarim, it refers to specific words. You had a question, David? That it refers to specific words of Satan. That Satan was up there trying to act as a prosecutor against Abraham. And he said, Abraham made a party. Who did he make the party for? Who did Abraham make the party for? Isaac. Abraham made the party for Isaac. Remember, he made a big party for Isaac, but what was absent from the party? Hello, Aviva and Mordechai didn't mention anything whatsoever about sacrifice. There were no sacrifices brought. So he says, the Omer, he says, Mikol Suda Shasa Avram made a big party. He did an upsharing. And lo ikrivu fanecha par echad. He didn't bring one bull for you. I didn't even bring a sheep. Amar, God says to him, Kumasa Ela b'shvil b'no. God, the only thing Abraham does in this world was on account of his son. He will omero zevacho so aponi lo yamakiv. Even if I would tell him to sacrifice his son, we wouldn't hold back. So now you ask the question, why doesn't Abraham object? Abraham's under attack. They're saying you don't love Hashem enough. So that's the answer. Abraham is under attack. So if he says, I don't want to kill my son, that'll be like a sign that he's afraid to give up his relationship with, he's not really strong in his relationship with Hashem.
By the way,
yes.
This was sort of a video, but there was a tradition, I don't know if it still is, that when Israeli young men go and join the military, they would hold a mitzvah party.
Wow, I never ever heard that. But you know what else? I thought you were going to say something else. This idea of sacrificing child. It used to be that Israeli soldiers were inducted on Masada.
No, Mount Masada, that's the top.
Yeah.
I find that when I was in Israel. And
Good.
they still do that today.
Yeah,
Right around the top.
but they stopped that being inducted there because they didn't like the symbolism of self-sacrifice, of killing yourself for a greater good, allowing yourself, because they stopped it around the time of one of the intifadas, where the theology of the intifada was the theology of the intifada was blow up our children so that we could so that was the issue. So they stopped being inaugurated in Masada. Okay, another let's just finish this Rashi, then we could dive in. Hello. So what does Rashi say? Rashi says, what else was it after what other matters? Achar dvarav shel Yishmael. Some say it was after the matters of Yishmael. Shaya mitpa'er al Yitzchak. Yishmael was exalting himself over Isaac. He was saying, Shemal ben Shloshesrei. He says, look, I circumcised myself at 13 years old and I didn't object. Whereas you only did it at the age of 8 years old. Amar Yitzchak, what?
Days.
8 days old, right. By the way, I could just say, as somebody who was circumcised at 8 days, I much prefer 8 days to 13 years old. Although after I was circumcised, I couldn't walk for a year. Thank you. Okay, anyway, so below Michai, and he didn't object. Amar Yitzchak. What? Yeah. So Yitzchak said, "Be'aver achad atam mi'areini," you're challenging me with one organ. If God would even say to me, sacrifice yourself before me, I would not refrain from doing it. Meaning to say that this was a response to Ishmael's attack. This was a response to Ishmael's attack on Yitzchak. And then I just finished the pasuk. He says, "Hineni, here I am." She says, what is this expression that Abraham says? Hineni, kachi aniatam shel chasidim. This is how the pious ask. When God asks you to do something, or when your parent asks you to do something, the pious way to respond is hineni, I'm ready to do it. Lashon anava, it's an expression of humility. Lashon zimun, an expression of readiness. By the way, I've been studying this Rashi every day, and I've been in town. We studied every single day that I've been in town since last year, Rosh Hashana. And I want to say to everybody, what a beautiful way to end our studies for the year, for our Rashi studies, with the word Hineni. Rashi, what I find so inspiring about Rashi is this combination of, Shia, you can leave those there. Oh, you can take them upstairs to the Aron Kodesh. I find what I love about Rashi is that Rashi is this combination of brilliance, humility, piety, and simplicity. That he's not trying to show how smart he is, but he clearly knows everything in the tradition that's written before him. And he's also not embarrassed to say, I don't know, we saw that several times, I don't know. And he's just trying to explain it to us. Do you know what it is to write something that lasts for 1,000 years? We're coming up on the birth of Rashi. We're right now in the year 2024. 2023, but Rashi was born in the year 1040. It's going to be the 1,000th year. How many things are written today that people will be studying with the way we study Rashi? And I feel like this is the most unique figure in Jewish history. And we saw this also. This is where the Lubavitch Rebbe wrote a commentary. We saw there are over almost 800 commentaries on Rashi. And every single person in this room is writing your own commentary on Rashi. We see it, we study it, we agree with him, we love it, it infuriates us, we don't know why he's saying that. That's the greatness of Rashi. So there's big shkoyach to everybody for studying this. Mincha. Also want to say that after Mincha and Mariv, we have a special